everyone. Welcome to ManageEngine Insights podcast. I'm Atira Jaikumar, an evangelist at ManageEngine, and I'll be your host for this episode. So today we're going to be talking about the latest IT service management trends. ITSM has grown by leaps and bounds since the pandemic. It has extended to non-IT functions like HR, finance, facilities, marketing, and more with enterprise service management. AI-powered IT service management is being used for intelligent ticket routing. Immersive self-service portals are being developed to ensure better employee experience. Repetitive process workflows have been automated, and we're seeing a shift from reactive to proactive IT service delivery and support. It is evident that organizations are looking for ways to make their IT service management leaner and stronger. During this videocast, we'll take a look at the new trends, tools, and techniques in IT service management and look at how organizations can derive value by adopting these trends. To dig deeper into this topic, we have an IT service expert with us. So without further ado, let me introduce Vance Murphy, an experienced award-winning service management professional, service management architect, consultant, and evangelist. And she's also the author of the IT Service Management Forum UK's Collateral on Service Transition. Hello, Vance. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
Great. So shall we get started?
Absolutely.
Sounds good. So Vance, post-pandemic workplaces are witnessing a massive increase in IT support requests. To support the surge in tickets and to ensure sustainable service delivery, organizations have started to adopt modern service management practices. Can we consider IT service management to be a driver of digital transformation in this post-pandemic era?
Absolutely. I think one of the things about COVID is that it's made us collectively kind of up our game. I think the last 2 years, a lot of IT organizations, a lot of IT managers, myself included, we kind of went into survival mode. It was all about keeping the lights on. It was all about keeping services running so that our people were supported and safe. And now that the world is, I'm not going to say like it's returned to normal because, well, firstly, what's normal? And secondly, I think that this has forever kind of changed us. It's kind of looking at how we can kind of do better, looking at the lessons learned in the next 2 years and how we can make things kind of better for our customers. So one example, and again, this is a people thing rather than a technology or a methodologies thing, is before the pandemic, before COVID, lots of service desks and lots of service desk managers that I was talking to, they were considering phasing out having like a phone line. It was all about self-service and automation and kind of really pushing self-service and self-help. And that's great, right? It's quicker, everything's templated, if things are automated, it's less prone to human error. But I think one of the learnings from COVID was that sometimes if someone called the service desk, particularly kind of in the lockdown kind of stages of COVID, sometimes that chat with the service desk agent was the first person or the only person that they would have been talking to kind of that day. So I think we've kind of learned the power of still having kind of people-centric channels. So that would be my first thing. The second thing is we absolutely still need to be kind of leaning on kind of self-service and automation because it's slicker, we can get more done, but that means it doesn't take away from the people kind of aspect. It absolutely highlights it. Like by automating things and making it slicker, it frees up our people so that like if something's more challenging or if someone just wants to deal with a real life actual human, then they can do that. I think it's about giving people choice.
So it's like a very people-centric approach that you're talking about, like freeing up technicians with self-service portals. I think we are slowly witnessing that change ever since COVID, right? People were not able to handle so many tickets. And today in my organization and stuff, I can see that self-service portals are getting stronger and leaner. So that people-centric approach, I think it's very valid today. Because the number of technicians also matter, right? Too many people, very less people to handle too many tickets. That issue is also there. So I think self-service is the thing that we are looking out. So yeah.
I think that's the thing. Rather than taking away from kind of being people-centric and kind of college experience, self-service, AITSM, kind of AI, machine learning, it actually it drives the people experience, because by doing, by using tech to do the heavy lifting, it
Yeah.
frees up people to handle the important interactions and to deliver better colleague experience, customer experience, employee experience. It just makes it better.
Exactly. With that, I'm coming to the second question. I mean, it's very related to the way you answered it now. So AI and ML are considered to be the two major drivers of modern service management. There are multiple benefits of AI. Like you said, it can reduce the number of level 0 and level 1 tickets. This effectively freeing up technicians to work on higher priority and more complex tickets. So can you explain the other benefits of AI-powered service management and what it means for enterprises today?
Absolutely. I think AI and machine learning, I think in the next few years, we're going to see them as being absolute game changers for ITIL practices like incident management, request management, and problem management. And let me talk a bit about being proactive as well. So many people I speak to, I ask them, do you do problem management? And they're like, absolutely, all over it. It's so important. I'm like, that's fantastic. What about proactive problem management? And I get blank looks or tumbleweeds or crickets. And it's like, well, what's problem management boards? And it's like, right, okay, this is brilliant, because if you this is something that you can do. I always get really excited when someone says, they want to do proactive problem management, because it could be such a game changer. Because by looking at the trend analysis, by taking the time to look at your kind of your pain points, by looking at like, why is there always like a spike of kind of network issues at the start of the month? Or why is our expenses system, always slow at certain times? Or why do we have kind of power issues at certain times? You can look for trends and you can get ahead of it. Like if you know that something's going to happen at month end, you can have extra resources. Or if the system's slow, you can look at why is it slow? Is it a memory issue? Is it like LAN contention? Is it like a code issue? You can get ahead of it. And machine learning, this is where machine learning and kind of AI come in, because what they do is they kind of look for kind of commonality. They look for themes, and you can automate this. So, if suddenly you see like a spike in tickets and it's linked to the same CI or a service, the machine can, at a most basic level, flag that to the service desk agent, because, we all work remotely now. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, service desks, extensive contact centers, everyone sat beside each other. So if something was going on, you could see from your colleagues, you could look at body language. Like if suddenly, there's an atmosphere, isn't there? If there's lots of calls coming in, everyone's that little bit more focused. And you don't get that necessarily when you're
Yeah.
working remotely.
Working remote. Yeah.
Whereas, if you've got AI, if you've got machine learning, and that's the thing with machine learning, it learns, it gets better and better and better over time. So you implement it, you have a first iteration, it learns, second and again, so that, it knows your organization, and the trending becomes more accurate, and it adds more value over time.
So we can say that reporting, trend analysis are also very closely related to proactive problem management, right?
Absolutely. And again, it's by getting ahead of it. Like I remember I was working for a customer, and they sold kind of financial products, and every month towards kind of month end, when the sales team in that final week of the month, they'd be doing this push to get things through, and the sales system would grind to a halt, or sometimes it would fall over. So what we did, and it's an older I guess ITIL concept. I think it was around in kind of ITIL version 2, but it's something that I still break out all the time, because that's the thing with ITIL, it's iterative. Like these things don't go away, you just kind of apply them differently. There's a concept called a technical observation post, And that is something that you use if you have a problem and you have absolutely no idea what's going wrong, what's causing it. And what you do is you have a workshop and you ask like a volunteer, you have a volunteer from each different kind of tech team. So someone from network services, someone from voice, someone from the Windows team, the Unix team, app support, development. And you work the problem. It's a bit like, pilots, like in the air, they have checklists, don't they? So if something goes wrong kind of mid-air, they have a very kind of logical and controlled kind of sequence of events. They go through this checklist, they work the problem. It's the same with the top team. You work the problem, you look at all the things that could be causing this. And this sales problem that I was talking about, there was network contention, there was some storage issues on the SAN that it was living on. There were some code issues. There was some overnight processing issues, and it was only by getting everyone together in a room
Yeah.
and just working it that we were able to bounce ideas. And it wasn't like an overnight fix, but it got fixed within a couple of weeks. And this had been going on for years, and the business had accepted it. We'd accepted it because we thought that it would be too complicated or too expensive to fix, and we applied a little bit of problem management, and we got there.
I mean, that's a great example, bringing together people to actually solve a problem proactively. I mean, example that you shared was very valid. With that, we'll move to the next question. So today, as you know, like you said, a lot of people are working remote. We have adopted a hybrid work culture, and thus it's very crucial to ensure that employees have the right support to do their job without facing any technical roadblocks. So can you shed light on how IT service management can smoothen employee experience?
Absolutely. I think the first thing is that we have to remember that the customer, the employee, the colleague, that person is at the center of everything that we do. That person is the reason why we're all here. And we need to learn this. There was a program called the IT Crowds, and I loved it because it was like it was representative, I think, of every service desk in the land. You'd ring up and you'd get someone saying, have you switched off and back on again? And we need to shift away from that. We need to look at that person. So I think the first thing is looking at that employee experience. So opening up channels. So omnipresence, omni-channels. So giving that person a choice of kind of how they would engage with us, whether it's phone, whether it's self-service, whether it's self-help. Secondly, leaning into self-service and self-help. So really empowering that colleague. Because I know, like, if it's something simple, like I'd much rather be able to reset my own password or request my own kind of equipment rather than having to, ring up, kind of go through a script, go through an IVR, and then, have someone, fill out a really detailed request. I'd much rather just, pop onto the self-service portal and kind of log it myself. So there's that. I think leaning into kind of self-healing and kind of resilience. So, when we design, so I think all too often, sometimes we're so excited by shiny tech that we forget about kind of colleague experience. So designing for high availability, designing for kind of high performance, employing kind of capacity management early. Everyone forgets about capacity management. Making sure that we've got continuity built in so that if something falls over, will it still work when the customer needs it to? I think the COVID pandemic as well. I mean, we've never had anything like this in our lifetime. Like I remember, like in the UK and Ireland, like when lockdown was announced, like Ireland locked down first, and then the UK did like a couple of weeks later. And even then, like I was looking at our politicians saying, look, we're going to lock down. This is really serious. I remember thinking, okay, so this will be 3 months. And then,
Yeah.
We lock down, we stay at home, we do everything we're meant to do, and this thing will go away, because nothing like this had ever happened, not to
It
the
happened.
extent. And, 2 years later, we're just starting to kind of come out of it. So I think we need to build in kind of resilience into kind of IT service delivery models as well. So not just the actual services, but how we deliver them. So
Yeah.
things like having kind of alternate kind of suppliers, like having kind of, like, again, it's like older kind of vital concepts, but going back to basics. So having things like definitive hardware stores, definitive media libraries,
Mm.
and okay, software, SaaS, that's easier. But,
Mm.
even before COVID, there was like a shortage of certain kind of Intel kind of components. And during COVID, like, it was really hard to get equipment at times. I remember being really, smug is the wrong word, but thinking, okay, I'd just done a massive order of like 50 laptops for our IT estate, and we only had 250 users. So, okay, we've got 50 laptops. Lockdown's just been announced. We're going to be okay for a few months. For whatever reason, in that first few weeks, it felt like every single person in the business dropped their laptop. And it was like, what do we do now? And, we had to get creative. We had to, send people tablets, and, we had to lean into things like Office 365 and Google Suites. Things like smart lockers as well, because we couldn't, like, at one stage, we couldn't leave our houses. We had to shelter in place. So how do we drop equipment off safely? So looking at things like smart lockers, those are the things.
Yeah, that service delivery aspect, frankly, I didn't think of it like supplier management from that perspective, right? I was thinking about more from the employee. How does an employee raise requests? How does an employee request for services? But from the technician side, delivering the service at the right time is also very crucial, like you said. So I think since the pandemic, we have focused on that part as well, like the initial concept of delivering the service at the right time, that part. So yeah, I think it was new to me, and I'm pretty sure that it was new to our audience as well. Yeah, so another thing is you talked about ITIL 2. So I wanted to highlight about ITIL 4. ITIL 4 introduced the concept of co-creating value, and focusing on co-creation means the service providers get to concentrate on what the customers or the consumers really want, right? So can you explain the importance of collaboration and co-creation from a service management perspective?
Absolutely. I'm really excited that I'm going to say the new version of ITIL, it's been out since late 2019, but I guess because of the pandemic, we've been focused on other things. But the new version of ITIL, what has excited kind of me most about it is, I think, the focus on value. Because if we're not focused on delivering value to our customers, why are we doing the
I
things that
know.
we're doing if we're not adding value? And I know that sounds daft and really basic, but I think sometimes we get distracted by the tech, or distracted by the number of tickets in the queue, or the number of calls that are coming in, that we forget about why we're doing it. We forget about kind of adding value. So I think value co-creation, I think the value stream, where it specifically calls out kind of all the different ways that we can add value, and it gives like a really structured approach. So, people and process, people and organization, practices, the guiding principles, all these things blended together. And what I love about ITIL is that, like, it's a framework. It's not prescriptive, so it's not a standard that you have to be compliant to. If you want something to be compliant to, then that's ISO 20K. But ITIL, you can take the parts that are relevant to your organization and you can apply those, and you can go from there. I think the guiding principles are really important. One of my favorite ones, kind of keep it simple and achievable and practical. I think something that we all, I think, can be guilty of losing sight on. But okay, really kind of take the time to listen to your customer. What does the customer want? What do our colleagues want? And build our services around our people and what they want.
So I've also heard a little bit of ITIL 4. I've heard about ITIL 4. So start from where you are, use what you want, like pick and choose what you can do. I mean, based on your organization's maturity. So that is a great thing to start with, right?
Yeah.
And focus on what you can deliver, how you can deliver value to your customers, and focus on co-creating value. Both the technicians as well as the customers, that is the employees, need to be satisfied. So that was an interesting perspective. um yeah, I mean,
I
we should
love
all
start
try
where you
to,
are.
yeah.
because there is
Yeah.
always something that you can do. You know, it doesn't matter kind of where you are, there will be something that you can do to make things better. I love progress iteratively with feedback.
Hmm.
So I used to get so sick of people saying, well, we can do something, but it's going to take us 3 months, 6 months, like a year for this thing to bed in. And actually, no, that's, you know, that's not it at all. Like what we want to do is make small, agile improvements, give, you know,
Hmm.
look at like how it's worked. Has it added value? Brilliant. Let's do the next thing and the next thing and kind of, you know,
Hmm.
build that maturity over time so that we keep getting better, that we really embed continual improvement into our working practices, our operating models, our service delivery, rather than playing kind of lip service to it. Something that I'm really excited about, and I guess it's linked to ITIL 4, is the new ITIL maturity assessment that was launched late last year. So for years and years, like I have been in IT forever, and I've been in ITSM for about 20 years. And the amount of times, you know, like a customer would say to me, come on, Vaughan, can you manage like our kind of ITIL practices or ITIL processes? And there are absolutely ways of doing it. So, you know, CMMI, but that kind of has an engineering slant, COBIT, but that has a governance
Hmm.
slant.
Hmm.
Lots of organizations, so Pink Elephant is one, they developed their own kind of maturity model, kind of Pink Scan, Pink Verify. But actually having an ITIL specific tool like that was built by Axelos, that's really powerful because it has the IT service management slant. And not only can we kind of now measure ITIL practices against the official, I guess, ITIL guidance, you know, we've got this maturity model that will give us the structure and will tell us, right, okay, you're at level 1 or level 2. This is what you need to do to get to level 3. Here's how you measure it. Here's what you do next. I think that's so it's a really exciting time, I think, for IT service management.
I mean, yeah, ITIL 4 has brought about a lot of changes. And actually, the example that you spoke of, right, that sales example about proactive problem solving, that was also like kind of linked to what we say co-creating value. If you look at that perspective, it's again, you had the technicians brought together and everybody had to brainstorm together and then identify a solution for the problem. So you got a lot of information from them, and then you were also able to, better your services accordingly and help in proactive problem solving. So that's again, if you look at that sense, it's again implementing ITIL 4 from a perspective, right?
It is. It absolutely is. I just, you know, again, I think it's such an exciting time. You know, it's about being proactive. It's about really looking at kind of how can we level up our
Mm.
services. So another aspect of ITIL 4 that I'm geeking out. I'm super
Excited.
geeky. Yeah, super excited. Is the artist formerly known as change management. So change management, then change control, change. Now we now have change enablement. So
Mm.
finally, change isn't seen as this source of problems and things breaking and things to be really worried about. It's seen, you know, it's seen as enabling the business. And finally, we're moving away from kind of models where we kind of block things, or we lock things down to the nth degree, to actually have more of a kind of collaborative approach, one that, you know, supports kind of flow and continuous integration, continuous delivery. So I think that's really exciting, kind of moving to kind of that model.
Mm.
So instead of
Mm.
like the big bang, kind of big, risky, kind of once a year, once every 6 months
Mm.
deployments where
Mm.
there's oodles of downtimes, we're looking at change in a more agile way. So it's like kind of more
Yeah.
kind of like interim or kind of releases that don't incur downtime, that are just kind of mini updates. And, you know, we can pivot and we can look, has that worked? Brilliant. If not, do we need to tweak it again? But by doing it in that way, it lessens the risk and, you know, it increases flow.
Yeah, it's not like sudden and abrupt. Rather, it's continual, and it's an agile process in itself.
Yes.
Organizations are looking for ways to improve and optimize their business processes even today, right? To ensure zero wastage of IT resources. So when you come to ITSM, repetition of similar incidents, the time loss waiting for a change approval, or the inability to locate relevant resources. These are places where actually time is lost. So there is a wastage of IT resources. So how can organizations reduce this wastage of IT resources from an IT service management perspective?
Okay. That's a really cool question. So two things, automation and enterprise service management. Should we talk about automation first? Because I feel like once I start talking about enterprise service management, you're probably not going to be able to stop me. So I know, challenge accepted. So let's talk a little bit about automation first. I think we're so lucky, okay? We live in an era of Facebook, of Twitter, of Amazon, you know? Never before have we been in an environment where our customers, our end users, our colleagues have been so comfortable kind of embracing technology and embracing apps. I think, and we can lean into that for kind of IT service delivery. So making like our ITSM tools kind of available via apps. So instead of it being like a big kind of, so taking change approvals, for example, we've all seen the example, haven't we, where we've built this really clunky, complicated change process, and the form is complicated, and there's lots of tabs and lots of pages, and there's lots of scrolling. And to approve a change, it's a mission. You've got to go into it, you've got to find the field, you've got to select the right drop down, you've got to write the right reason, you've got to like click the right kind of radio button, and it's super complicated. Whereas, what we can do now is we can actually have we can plan for that. We can plan for the customer journey. We can, like, basically it's the golden rule of ITSM, isn't it? Always make it easy for people to use your services. And that's really true for kind of change approvals. Always make it easy for someone to review and like authorize the change where appropriate. So, whether that's like an email link, and they click on the link, it takes them straight to the overview of the change, and then like a big button that says like approve or query or whatever the next step is, or being able to do it in an app. That way they can do it on their phone, they can multitask. They're in a Zoom meeting waiting for kind of other folks to join. They can just go in quickly and do it. Like it's not a saga. The same for, logging kind of incidents and service requests, again, using self-service, leaning into our service catalogs. How many of us are guilty of maybe having the same service catalog since 2019 and just not having that time to have gone in and updated it? Guys, if you take one thing away from this podcast today, can you go in and can you just check your service catalogs? Just make sure they're still up to date, that they're still kind of useful. Make sure they're actionable. So, if you can click on a services, can you make that actionable? Can you, for example, log an incident off that service, a service request? Can you approve a change off that service? So those are the things. So the second thing would be enterprise service management. We have these fantastic ITSM tools, right? And they're so, they're easy to access, they're easy to deploy with SaaS, with apps. So if we're only using them for IT, right, we're missing a trick.
Missing out a lot.
We are. And like, that's the thing, just because we use it for our service desk, it doesn't mean that we can't use it for marketing, for facilities, for health and safety. So folks should absolutely be doing this. We have these fantastic tools. Why are we just limiting them to IT? And it could be any kind of business process. All you need is a process that has like a defined trigger point, a defined kind of entry point, a defined kind of set of activities and a defined kind of exit approach. And you can use your ITSM tool for that.
I mean, the apps part, I definitely agree, because like you said, technology, everyone and anyone is using these apps. So giving them these apps to, just make it easier, and the templates, like everyone who's listened to this podcast, like Juan said, please go update the template. and make it more friendlier for whoever's using it, let it be your employees, whoever's using it. And again, ESM, we'll talk about ESM a bit more in the coming questions. So I'm not jumping into it. So now let's look at, automation and orchestration. So IT processes in itself should be designed and implemented to speed up ways of working, to reduce manual errors, and to make the life of both employees and technicians easier. So automating manual, routine, error-prone tasks will accelerate service delivery, reduce IT wastage, and smoothen IT operations. So can you explain the importance of workflow and workflow automation and orchestration from an IT service management perspective?
Absolutely. So this is an example where automation is all about prep work. So if you get the prep work right, it will work pretty flawlessly, right? But it's all about, so I know it sounds kind of counterintuitive, doesn't it? We want to automate, we want to use the technology, but actually to have the technology working kind of correctly by giving kind of the outcomes, by reducing wastage, by making our processes kind of leaner, more efficient, we actually have to involve people from the beginning. We have to design for kind of people in mind. And that's where kind of we can design these processes that will absolutely fly. So for example, applying kind of automation to like an incident management process flow or a request management kind of process flow. It's like, right, okay, let's sit down. Let's look at all the scenarios. Okay, because if the machine encounters a scenario that's like it's not expecting, or it hasn't encountered before, we need to give it some logic. Otherwise, everything will fall over, or it'll loop, and that's not great kind of experience wise. So we need to map out our processes, and we need to map out all the scenarios, and then build machine learning or build the automation around that.
So basically, before the workflows, we need to identify the start point and end point, and it needs to be, it shouldn't be new. It should be repetitive is what you're saying, right? When you have repetitive incidents, repetitive change requests, it's easier to automate that ways.
Exactly. There should be no surprises. So I think that's why a really good way of doing this is like, I mean, do we love a focus group? I know no one wants yet another meeting, but actually just taking that time, even if it's just an hour. So sitting down with your service desk, sitting down with your resolver teams, sitting down with your end users saying, right, okay, we want to automate this. We want to make this slicker. We want to, make this like quicker and easier for kind of people to get and receive help. These are all the scenarios that we can think of. What do you think? I guarantee you your end users will have like different scenarios. It'll be like, well, what if this happens in the middle of the night? Or what about if I'm in between like client sites and I'm traveling? And what about if I can't get a signal? Like, these are the things that we need to build in.
And I mean, again, the IT4 concept of co-creating value is it's also applicable here, right? Bringing everyone together to a common place and discussing about how your workflows needs to be designed. That is also, where you can incorporate and inculcate the values of IT4.
Yes. And like, that's the thing, there's no kind of them and us anymore. There is no business and IT. We are all one team. And when we work together, that's where the value co-creation comes in. That's where we make things better. That's where we can do really cool things by working together, by engaging.
Working together. And now we move to your most interesting topic. So today, the principles of service management has been extended to beyond IT to other departments through enterprise service management. Say it is marketing or facilities. It's been used to optimize the delivery of all services. So what is the scope of ESM? And can you also cite a few real world examples of enterprise service management?
Yeah, I can. So for me, ESM is about not missing a trick. When you buy an ITSM tool, okay, that's a significant investment, okay? And by buying that tool and making that investment and building kind of those kind of workflows and kind of practices and automation, you're saying, right, I care about my end users because I care about service quality. I care about like our service desk and our tech support team because I want them to have like a decent tool to be able to deliver service. I care about the overall experience. I want this to be seamless and consistent. And And ESM is, I like to think about it as leveling up. So it's actually about applying kind of ITSM to the rest of the business. So it's about opening up that tool and those workflows and those benefits so they could be used by any other team in your business. But don't get scared, because I realize, you know, lots of people, lots of folks will be listening to this and thinking, okay, that sounds great. It also sounds like a little bit terrifying. Are the floodgates going to open? Is there going to be a massive free for all? So what I would say is, you know, keep it simple and achievable, to borrow, you know, an ITIL kind of guiding principle. So I would say, if you're interested in ESM, what I would do is I would look at your business. Is there a department that's really struggling, you know, with workload, just with blockers, just, you know, they have a process, they have ways of working, but for whatever reason, things are getting lost, things are getting stuck, things are taking longer than expected. And just, you know, ask them for kind of their workflow and see if you can, you know, use the tool. Because incident management, for example, that could be, you know, transposed to kind of health and safety kind of facilities. You know, okay, you're reporting a broken laptop. Well, it's the same principle, isn't it? If it's a broken printer, a broken lamp, a broken kind of power socket, it's the same thing. Something's broken. It's just that instead of routing the ticket to the service desk, it's going to be to facilities. The same for request management. You know, I'm doing some sales activity, you know, I'd love some help from marketing to make my kind of sales brochure or my sales content like all sparkly, or I need some help from graphics design. You know, same for kind of HR and legal, like I have a question, how do I go about this? Or, you know, I'm, you know, starting like a, you know, I'm starting like a training program for someone, like what are the, you know, what are the things, or what are the criteria that I need to hit? Onboarding kind of new colleagues. Again, that's a really powerful example
Yes.
where, you know, and you can make it really slick. So, you know, as soon as the person has a job offer, they can get a text or an email saying, congratulations, here's your contract, here's your employee handbook. Click this link to order your IT equipment. Click this link to order your health and safety equipment. Click this link to order, like, you know, your uniform. Click this link for kind of the training that you'll need to do. And we can make it really slick and really polished and really seamless. And what I love about that is that it doesn't matter from like a end user perspective. It doesn't matter kind of what area of the business they're dealing with. Like the branding will be consistent, the look and feel will be consistent. Like it's a great way to drive that kind of feeling of belonging to a company. I think that's what's going to be really important, like, because we've all been isolated, we've all been working remotely, that feeling of belonging, that's going to be really important.
Yeah, so sharing everything, like sharing what IT has with non-IT functions, so
Yeah.
that they can streamline the operations. That's the important, most important thing that, you know, we can derive from it, like streamlining their operations with the help of IT and making it simple for them, rather than, you know, these complex cycles. And the time, and to an extent, time can also be saved, right? Like you said, raising a request, they can just go to that portal and just raise the request there, and it's done. Somebody is there to take care of it. So yeah, ESM is the next big thing. And
And
I
that's so important, and you've nailed it completely. Sorry to interrupt you, but someone will take care of it. Someone will take care of me. Like, I don't have to worry about this going into a black
Yeah,
hole and like I'll never
yeah.
hear from it again. I know, because, you know, that, you know, it's a consistent look and feel, that, you know, the automation's kicked in. So I've got an email for saying, thank you for engaging with health and safety or facilities or HR or IT. Your query is this, here's the reference number. Someone's going to get back to you in X timescales. They're going to feel looked after, they're going to feel cared about. And that's, sorry, you phrased that so brilliantly. Love that.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, that caring part, right? Somebody is there to, you know, help me out.
Yeah.
So that's also very important. Yeah, so we've talked about ESM, and now when you look at futuristic ITSM trends, right? Proactive support or improved remote access experience, simplified processes through expanded AI and automation, like you said, are considered to be some of the avenues that ITSM experts are planning to explore in terms of IT service management. So where do you think ITSM is heading, or what are the what is the future of IT service management?
So I think AITSM is going to
Hmm.
become hugely popular, like in the next year or so, kind of just using automation to kind of really kind of improve experience. I think XLAs, so I think
Hmm.
XLAs don't get the visibility and the love. And I think coming out of the pandemic, I think that's going to be kind of more important. So as well as checking your service catalogs, folks, maybe have a look at kind of SLAs, see if they can be kind of, see if you can level up using kind of some XLAs. And it doesn't have to be complicated. We've all been to IKEA, right?
Hmm.
You know the way, like on the when you're leaving, there's like a little dashboard, and you can like hit a button, and you can hit like there's like a red sad face, there's like an amber kind of, it's not quite frowning, but it's not quite smiling, and there's like a green smiley face. Just something like that. It's like how, you know, it could be a question on your survey, like how was just the overall experience?
Experience. Yeah.
Yeah, just like something really simple like that. And it can, you know, then, I mean, and then absolutely you can build on it, and you can add more granularity, you can add like more questions. But like, even if you just do that, and again, it's demonstrating that you care about your customers, that you
Hmm.
want them to have a good experience. And then you know, look at trends. So, you know, if marketing are having a terrible experience, is it like on particular days of the month when they're really busy? You know, do we need extra people on shift, you know, at those time of the month? You know, like if it's like a busy time, if it's like deals closing, these are, you know, that's the value that they can add, and that's where it's going to be really, really powerful.
Yeah, I think
Uh,
like everything we've discussed so far is also related to the futuristic trends in ITSM, right? Because you were saying employee experience, it's again linked to AI and automation. And ESM, driving ESM to other departments like marketing and everything. These are all linked together or interlinked. And I think, like you said, that is where we can see ITSM. Like that's how ITSM is going to grow. Um,
it's a, you know, it's a really, really exciting time. And by using technology, we can actually put people at the center of this, and we can
hmm.
grow engagement. We can, you know, improve NPS scores. We could just make things better.
Mm. Make things better for everyone with the help of IT.
Yes.
We should pitch it like that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the goal. Hey, that's why we're all here, right?
Yeah. So yeah, we've come to the end of today's session. It was great talking to you once. I've learned so much, and I'm pretty sure everyone who's listening to this podcast must have gained a lot of insights. And again, we'll remind them to update their templates once again.
Seriously, guys, you know, check your service catalogs. You know, are they up to date? Are they actionable? Check your incidents and your request forms. You know, are they consistent? Are they correct? Um, you know, the simpler they are, like the easier they'll be to kind of automate. So you can like lean
Mm.
into trend analysis. So you can start applying things like AITSM and machine learning. Um, Look at opening up, you know, if you haven't done so already, you know, and especially now as folks are kind of recovering from COVID, they're going to be looking for kind of automation. They're going to be looking for quick wins. So
Yes.
share the love, you know, consider opening up your service desk tool, your ITSM tool to kind of help other kind of departments. And again, run a pilot, you know, like look at kind of departments that are really struggling, help them build a
Mm.
workflow, and just, you know, run it from there. But yeah, look after
Yeah,
your people.
bringing together people, process, and technology so as to better everything. That's what we have discussed so far.
Yeah, that's what we've done.
Yeah. So thank you once. Thanks again. And thank you everyone who's joined this podcast. If you have any feedbacks, any questions, do leave them in the comment section and we'll get back to you at the earliest. And so stay tuned for our next session. That's it. Bye, guys.
Thanks so much.